Hello, and welcome back to Television Expert. I kind of feel like Taskmaster is becoming something else. It's morphing into a new show. It's kind of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Because this is my reaction to the latest series of Taskmaster, episode 1. And yeah, brilliant episode. I think the cast dynamic is brilliant. The new cast are really good. All kind of seem to be gelling together and bringing something different to the table. There's really good instant chemistry between all of them. And I think the tasks were really good. There was a different variety, and there was really good variety of different methods within each one. And you had some people who were very successful in tasks and other people who weren't. So that was all brilliant. But the whole thing's kind of got me thinking about this new era that we seem to be entering of Taskmaster, where in the promotion for this series, they were heavily promoting the fact that it's on YouTube. And Channel 4 kind of feels like a bit of an afterthought. So on the promotional images, it was saying the new series of Taskmaster starting now on Channel 4 and on YouTube everywhere. So I think even in the UK it's on YouTube. This is kind of like a really interesting new type of releasing a show, you know. Instead of putting like what is a traditional television format, you know, this first started on the TV channel Dave, it then went to Channel 4. Instead of priming people to think, right, it's going on Channel 4, instead, it feels like the emphasis is now on YouTube and the global audience. Even to the point where recently, Taskmaster had a whole US tour. It's crazy how much the show's grown over there, and it's just because of YouTube. So, yeah, we're in the kind of interesting stage where this will probably get viewed more by Americans on YouTube than it will with British people in the UK. The actual viewing figures for Taskmaster in the UK, it does well. It's like one of Channel 4's top shows, but overall it's not amazing. It's not like one of the top shows in the country. You know, when you talk to people within a workplace or people you know, not many people actually watch it. Like, it's a relatively niche thing. But this niche show is beginning to find a huge audience online. Because when you look at the global population, there's enough weirdos like us that like Taskmaster and want to watch it. So it's interesting. Like, it's going to end up being a kind of YouTube show rather than a television show. And the people watching it on YouTube, maybe they won't even think about the fact that, like, this is a TV show. Like, this used to be a TV show. Yeah, it's very interesting. And you can see the difference that YouTube is making in the casting choices. I know some of this has been kind of random and coincidental because, like, for example, Kumail Nanjiani being on the show, you kind of go, wow, he's like a really big American star. Like, this is quite a good, like, catch for Taskmaster to get him. But he was a fan of the show. So it wasn't that, like, Taskmaster's suddenly become big on YouTube in America and now it's attracting American comedians. It's just kind of a coincidence that he was a big fan of the show anyway and he wanted to come on it. But then, of course, we also had Jason Mantzoukas the other year. And this seems to be happening more and more. Even Armando Iannucci kind of feels like he's chosen to kind of gear towards Americans a little bit because, you know, you could then say to American viewers, oh, well, he's the, like, creator of Veep, you know, a big American, like, political show. So it does kind of feel like Taskmaster is starting to move away from its British audience and become something more for a global audience. You know, there's not been a Taskmaster tour in the UK. I would very happily go and watch that, but there hasn't been one. But there has been one in America. So is it now getting viewed more in America than it is in Britain? It's just kind of interesting. Yeah, and like moving forward, is the show going to be kind of more geared towards Americans? You would kind of think to yourself, oh, you could do like a US version of this. And, you know, obviously they did try about 10 years ago, they tried to do it and didn't succeed. And Alex in recent years has kind of said, you know, why don't we maybe have another go at doing an American version, but maybe have me and Greg host it? But I'm kind of starting to think that won't happen. And instead, what will happen is this version of the show will just slightly become more geared towards an American audience. Yeah, it is interesting. But yeah, I loved this first episode. I think the cast were really good. like I say, each one of them are bringing something different. There's been a good like variety of different ideas. Um, yeah, really, really good. I would say that egg thing with Joel Dommett, that's very cool. That they haven't done a prank in a while, and he doesn't feel like the obvious target. Maybe now we're seeing a bit more of him. He's obviously got quite a cheeky kind of sense of humour. Um, Maybe that makes sense. But uh, someone like Josh Widdicombe, when he got his task of counting all the beans and the rice and stuff, he felt like a bit of an easy target and someone who might not complain as much. If you'd done that to like Ramesh, I mean, it would have been very, very funny, but I feel like he would have kicked off a lot more. Um, yeah, kind of. It's interesting to see them do something so cruel so early on as well. They've revealed it in the first episode what they've done with this secret task to Joel. Yeah, very, very funny. In general, I think all the tasks in this were really, really good. I think the bringing food to Greg task wasn't as exciting, but it kind of felt a bit more like that kind of escape roomy style task where you just kind of work out what the secret behind the task is, and then you can like win it. But it was funny how you get the contrast between Joel, Kumail, and Amy, just actually solving it through intelligence, looking at the clues, working everything out, solving it. And then you go to Joanna and I'm blanking. Oh, I literally said his name, Armando Iannucci. You cut to them, and they just accidentally get the answer. Like that's very funny. Uh, yeah, but really good start to the series, and just starts to bring in some of those questions. Yeah, about how big Taskmaster's getting. I mean, it's brilliant. Like I've been a fan since day one. Um, like I'm literally obsessed with the show. I used to watch it like all the time on repeat, and as far as my credentials go to review Taskmaster, I have met Alex Horne very randomly. Um, it was Christmas Eve in my dad's pub because my dad married a landlady, and it's Christmas Eve, and I was upstairs just in my room. Dad sends me a message saying, "Oh, this guy off the telly's here." And bear in mind, this is probably like 2016. 2016, I think. So I think Taskmaster had only been on for about a year, but I was such an early adopter that like I was already obsessed with it, and I'd already like rewatched all of the episodes so many times. And then Dad sends me this message and says, "Oh, there's this random like guy from the TV here. Have you heard of Taskmaster?" I'm like obsessed with Taskmaster. Um, so Alex Horner just turned up in my dad's pub. Bear in mind, this is the middle of nowhere. No one ever comes to my dad's pub. He barely gets regulars in. So it was kind of wild that just someone like from television just turned up, and especially from like one of my favourite shows, if not my favourite show, had just turned up on Christmas Eve. So I'm quite an anxious person, and I don't really like meeting celebrities, to be honest. I get worried that they're going to ruin whatever thing I liked. I met David Mitchell once, and he didn't. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but the encounter was just kind of awkward. Partly that was my dad's fault, to be honest. But so David Mitchell himself was very polite, but it felt a little bit awkward in general, and it kind of made me like I had to have a break for watching What I Lied to You for a bit. Because it was a bit awkward. So like, I get a bit worried meeting celebrities that I really like admire, and but with Alex, I was like, oh, I've got to go down and say hello and get a picture. And luckily, I did brave it. I did go down. I felt really awkward because like Alex was there with his family, I think extended family even. And like I say, Taskmaster had only been on TV for like a year, maybe 2 years. So I don't know how used to like fan interaction he was at that point. But like I went up to him, like braved it and said, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of Taskmaster as well. If I get a picture," and he was really, really nice. Honestly, he was really. I know everyone says this about Alex, but like he was really nice, and he was even like giving me tips because the lighting in Dad's pub is just terrible. It's like a 15th century pub. Like the lights, and not that they've been in since the 15th century, but they're terrible. So he was even suggesting like, "Oh, should we actually move and take it over here where there's more light?" So he was really, really nice. And as someone who gets anxious meeting celebrities, like he was a great person to me, and I didn't actually feel anxious. Um, yeah, and it's just so surreal. Like I think my dad spoke to his dad for like 20 minutes or something whilst he was like serving him a drink. It's just the whole, yeah, it's just very random. I still kind of can't believe it happened. And I always felt awkward because I'd said about how much of a fan I was, and I think I said, "Oh, I'd love to like come and see a recording of it." And this was back in the day where you would have to queue up, and there was no like guarantee that you were going to get a seat. So, and as someone who like we live in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, so getting down to London itself is like a lot of effort, and like getting down there, driving several hours to get to London and then to find that you don't have a seat would be just completely gutting. So I'd mentioned this, and Alex said like, "Oh, just DM me on Twitter, and I'll like sort it out for you." Um, and I never DM'd him, but in my defence, um, I couldn't DM him because I think you both have to follow each other to DM each other, or at least that was the thing at the time. Whatever happened, like I couldn't work it out. And then, years have gone by, and I sort of thought, oh, I should have just like sent him a tweet and just said like, oh, you said I could like ask for a ticket, and he probably would have then followed me and then worked it out. So that was on me. So like I've still never been to a recording, and I would absolutely love to. Like I really want to go at some point, but it's just never happened, unfortunately. But yeah, that was my weird meeting Alex Horde at Christmas story. But like I say, obviously, it was really, really nice. And then that's great because, like I say, with like meeting David Mitchell, it kind of ruined what I liked you for me for a bit. But meeting Alex Horde, it's made me even more appreciative of the show and what he's done on it. So it's brilliant. But my other credentials are I went to the Taskmaster live experience the other year, and I was one of the people. There was like reduced price tickets where you could go 2 weeks before the launch, and I won. I won the Taskmaster live experience. I felt so smug because I went with my girlfriend as well, and I beat her. She was actually second, either second or third place, but I won, and yeah, I felt very proud. I was just beaming because you get to like sit on the throne and stuff at the end. It was really really good, and it was great because like you actually kind of get to experience going to the show a bit. Like I kind of felt like I'd picked up some stuff from Taskmaster. Like I was looking behind curtains to see if there's anything hidden. I was looking under the tables. That's always one you got to look out for. So yeah, it was great. But yeah, that's my credentials. So I am a bit of a Taskmaster expert. So I do want to try and react to each one of these episodes. For this first one, I feel like I've got a little bit less to say. So I just kind of thought I'd introduce it a little bit more, and then yeah, talk about that kind of like American side of things, which I just find really interesting. But yeah, I just think this cast is great. I'm Andrew Iannucci. I've always appreciated. The thick of it is like one of my favorite shows, like one of my favorite sitcoms, definitely. Yeah, it's just such a genius show, and even him as a personality, like I've listened to him on podcasts and stuff, and he's just really intelligent, really witty. So he's great. He's bringing his own kind of vibe. Joanna Page, I think, has been really, really funny. She brings a completely different energy to everyone else, which I think is really good. Obviously, she's like most famous for Gavin and Stacey, but yeah, I think she could do well on this. She could come across quite well. Which if anyone's seen, like there was a bit of a minor controversy with her like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, where she was doing a podcast for the BBC, and she was reviewing a girl show who's called Chi with a C. She was like a YouTuber, like TikTok influencer kind of person, and she got given her own show. Like she wrote her own show on the BBC, and Joanna Page reviewed it and just flat out said, I think it was SHIT, and just kind of came across a bit bad, and people kind of rightly were criticizing her for it, kind of saying she's kind of like punching down, considering she's on like one of the most popular sitcoms in the UK. It's kind of a bit weird to then say this like up and comer like her show's rubbish, when like comedy's very subjective, and like yeah, just it was a bit weird. But then I think in some ways I think it was a bit overblown, the controversy, because we've all sat with our mates And like when someone said, "Oh, have you watched, this new show?" We've said, "Oh yeah, it's a load of rubbish, really, really bad." So I think it's kind of fair enough to have that opinion, but I think it is different when you're then broadcasting it, and she should have toned down the speech. I think if she hadn't sworn, I think that would have been better. If she just calmly explained why she didn't gel with it personally, that would have been okay. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird, like, oh. But I don't think, I think she's just a very energetic person, very hyper person, and she just wasn't thinking. And she didn't really think about the kind of responsibility that she has when she was like on a BBC podcast. Yeah, so I think it's a bit unfair how much people then went against her for it. But I think this is good for her. This could be like good for PR, make her look a bit better after the controversy. We then have Joel Dommett, who just feels like just a natural kind of choice for the show. He's very like in right now. He's hosting like big mainstream shows on ITV, like The Masked Singer. Yeah, he's going to be good. He's been good. He's just like one of those easygoing people that will just kind of blend into these shows. Like he'll be fine. And he's already had like some funny moments, obviously with the egg thing and the t-shirt good and stuff. So yeah. Amy Gledhill, like I'm not as familiar with her. Like I've kind of seen her a little bit. I think just in like clips online and stuff. But she was recently in Last One Laughing, and yeah, she was pretty good on it. I don't think the way it was edited, I don't think you saw the most of her. I think it kind of focused on some of the more like prominent names, like your Bob Mortimers and your David Mitchells and stuff. So it's a bit of a shame for her on that she wasn't like highlighted as much. Because I think in the previous year, Harriet Kemsley went on, who she hasn't been on Taskmaster, has she? She'd be great on Taskmaster. But Harriet Kemsley, I feel like she was in a similar position to Amy Gledhill going in to Last One Laughing, where she was a little bit less well known at the time, even though she'd been like working for years. But I feel like Last One Laughing elevated Harriet Kemsley, maybe just because she stayed in quite far in. But I don't think the same effect has really happened for Amy Gledhill. So maybe Taskmaster will do that for her. Maybe this will be her kind of platform instead of Last One Laughing. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting. Like, it's always good when you don't know people as much, because then you don't know what they're going to do, and they can kind of surprise you throughout the series. Because like in recent series, like Phil Ellis, I didn't know anything about. Anya Magliano, I didn't know anything about. And they were like two of my favourite people on it that year. So I think, yeah, Amy Gledhill will kind of grow into it. And then, of course, like Kumail Nanjiani, like it's just, yeah, what a weird turn of events that he's like on the show. He's like friends with Nish Kumar, I think, and James Acaster. So he's kind of in that clique, even though he's like a kind of Hollywood celebrity, basically. Yeah, it's great. I think I personally like the fact that they're bringing Americans on. I think it just brings a different energy, a different contrast to everyone else. And I mean, on this like panel, we've got someone from Wales, we've got someone from America, like English people. Like it's a good. Amanda Iannucci's, I think, from Scotland. So it's a great like contrast with different people. Yeah, it's wild. And yeah, just all of them just feel like they've clicked very, very quickly, and the chemistry's already there. And it feels like it could be quite a chaotic group as well. Yeah, every year they do great with the casting, and this feels like it is going to be a good one. So yeah, very, very promising first episode. And as we get into the other ones, like we'll probably talk about it a bit more, like with the tasks and the points and everything. But yeah, great first episode to this series, and it's very interesting to see it becoming more and more popular. And like I said, I like it. I like the fact more people into it, because then we'll get more Taskmaster tours and merchandise and stuff, and I'm a sucker for all of that. So yeah, really, really good. But do a Taskmaster tour in the UK. Don't just keep it in America. I want a Taskmaster tour in the UK. Make that happen. But yeah, thank you for watching. If the location's a bit weird, so yeah, this is because I've just bought a house. So this is us testing all the colours on the walls for this attic room, and we haven't quite decided what we're doing yet. But that's why it's a little bit makeshift, this one, whilst we're getting things sorted. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.